What up, folks? This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop, and welcome to this new segment that I'm calling Disaster Reel. In this new series, I'll be trying to make some fun out of some of the most staggering on-screen disasters. I was inclined to start this series because of a particular movie that no one seems to talk about, but it's a movie that has a very special place in my heart. I watched Endless Love in theaters on its release date in 2014, and it made my Valentine's Day. It is so bad. There are few comedies in recent years that made me laugh as hard as this sap pile. Now, I was going to get this video out on Valentine's Day, but there was a power outage at my place, but I thought I can still release it during the month for love, which is something this movie doesn't have, so I guess it doesn't matter. This movie claims to be based on the novel by Scott Spencer, and it's a remake of an adaptation of that book from 1981. I was unaware of the book and the original movie at the time I first saw this one, but after having a good laugh at it, I read the book and saw the 1981 version both out of curiosity. The book is actually pretty decent. It's sort of a dark cautionary tale about how obsessing over first love can bring out the worst in you. The 1981 movie completely misses the point of the book, and is ultimately just a bland, forgettable romance that no one seems to care about. The thing people remember most about it is that it featured the on-screen debut of Tom Cruise. The late Roger Ebert opened his review with a comparison of the book and movie, saying, "There is all the difference in the world between these two story sequences." And if I had to guess, I'd say that Shana Feste, the writer and director of the remake, saw that quote, turned to the person next to her and went, "Hold my beer." There is virtually nothing that this movie has in common with the book, so much so that it's a wonder why they bothered giving it the title Endless Love and including Scott Spencer's credit. The only connections are that there's a father who doesn't want his daughter with this guy, albeit for different reasons, and there's a house fire, and even that doesn't happen for the same reason. In the book, the house fire was like the centerpiece of the story. It had so much significance. In the movie, it's just tacked on at the end as an excuse for it being labeled as an adaptation of the book. You could just as easily say that 2012 is a remake of The Perfect Storm because there's a tidal wave in it. Now, I'm mostly not going to talk about this movie as a book adaptation. I'll be talking about it as what I saw it as upon my first viewing. With a cliched story, cliched characters, and a cliched script, this whole movie is essentially one big cliche. I could easily see it appearing under 90% of all categories on tvtropes.org. But what sets this apart from other lame romance movies is that it will take these cliches to ridiculous extremes. It's that shameless and so confident in itself that it makes for an unintentionally funny experience. The movie actually begins with a cliche that I don't get tired of, the movie's opening score playing during the studio logos. Whether it's soft piano and guitar music like here, or if it's fast-paced like at the beginning of Furious 7, there's something about it that gives you this real good feeling of exhilaration for what's to come. But then you realize exactly the kind of movie you're in for from the very first line.
There was a girl. A beautiful girl surrounded by people, yet utterly alone.
A while back, I hosted a screening of this movie with some of my friends, and as soon as that opening line was spoken, someone went, "Wow, I hate it already." So as we're told in narration, David, played by Alex Pettyfer, has spent all of high school crushing on a girl named Jade, played by Gabriella Wilde. In continuing the casting of people clearly in their mid-20s as high school students. After Jade's brother Chris died 2 years earlier, she's mostly kept to herself, not having the heart to socialize in high school. And because of this, no one has wanted to be around her. Now, there are two kinds of characters that the female lead will often be in a romance flick. The rich girl who falls in love with the poor boy, or the nerdy bookworm who's an outcast in school. Jade is both. Because with high school being as materialistic as it is, of course the students would see a gorgeous rich girl like Jade as an outcast. This movie is so hell-bent on relying on cliches that it doesn't realize there are some that don't go together.
I watched her for all of high school, waiting for that perfect moment to talk to her, but that moment never came.
So let me get this straight. You've never had an opportunity to talk to her, despite the fact that you've seen her constantly keeping to herself for 4 years. You know, when I attended the high school youth group at my church, there was a girl I had a crush on, and it was several weeks before I managed to become friends with her, because she was always in conversation with her friends, and I didn't want to feel like I was invading. No one has been around Jade. I can understand being shy to an extent, but what other obstacles have been keeping David from talking to her for 4 freaking years? This was when I started to buckle up. There's already loads of problems and the movie's just getting started. So shortly after graduation, David does finally get his chance to meet Jade when he and his friend Mace are working as valets at an upscale restaurant. Jade visits with her parents and her brother Keith. So how do David and Jade meet? I'll give you 3 seconds. Your first guess is probably right.
Nice spot. Cheers. Lisa, take care.
Yes, the girl drops the book, they both crouch down to pick it up and wind up looking into each other's eyes, as if that cliche hasn't been run into the ground enough. Now, David's friend Mace is played by Dio Akenyi, who also played a sidekick just months earlier in a far superior romance, and he is legitimately funny. Like, seriously funny, not ironically funny like the rest of the movie. When some jerk pulls up telling them to earn their 3 minutes in his car, they decide to pull a Ferris Bueller and go for a joyride with the car. But of course, they return to an angry guest, leading to a double dose of product placement in one line.
You ate Fatburger in my Maserati. It's over. You're done, mister.
But this allows for Dio Akenyi to prove that he's the true hero of the movie.
I want him fired too.
My fault.
Him and him fired. I'm having your job.
It was me. It was me. I ate it.
No. It was me. I ate the Fatburger.
In a script this brainless, he had to have improvised. The Maserati guy gets more provocative, causing David to lose his cool.
Why don't we go inside?
Well, it's going to take a lot more than stealing my car to get her to spread her legs.
David's father, played by Robert Patrick, hears about it later.
This guy deserve it? Yeah. Let me guess. You were protecting Mace.
That sentence sounds strangely backwards. I know Soviet Russia jokes were so 9 years ago, but I couldn't care less. In Soviet Russia, you protect Mace. So Jade, I guess, is inspired by David to reach out to her classmates by holding a graduation party at her family's house. At first, none of her fellow graduates show up other than David, until he helps out by crashing the party that everyone else is at. He does so by means of probably the movie's most interesting concept, Alex Pettyfer, an Englishman, impersonating an Englishman.
Hi, I'm calling about a very loud party at 44 Seawall Road. And oh, God.
There seems to be someone pissing on my Mini Cooper.
And then...
Hi.
Is David here?
Yeah, he's inside. Come in.
Is this your party?
Yeah, I'm sure partiers who just got busted by the cops are going to get off scot-free and be able to skip on over to the other party that's happening. Nice try, movie. But it wouldn't be the most cliched romance ever without an evil ex, now would it? David's ex-girlfriend Jenny is among the crowd and is not happy to be there.
Now all of my friends were Jade Butterfield's party. A girl who acted like we didn't exist in high school. Does that make sense to you, David?
What the heck is everyone's problem? They think Jade is a jerk for not being outgoing? Her brother died for Pete's sake. And it's not like his death just went unnoticed. There was a plaque outside the school dedicated to him. So this night should give David and Jade plenty of ample time to get to know each other more. But they don't, they just kind of say things.
I've wanted to kiss you since the 10th grade. I couldn't go another minute without telling you that.
This is the most cliched hiding place you could have chosen. This
is
the stupidest hiding place.
Take us to the Bahamas of hiding places.
Listen.
And by the end of the evening, they're already locking lips. The family is very quick to welcome David, except for, you guessed it, the dad. Jade's father, Hugh, played by Bruce Greenwood, has his doubts on David being an ideal son-in-law after witnessing him getting physical with Maserati guy. Which is understandable, but the movie wants us to think, how could he? David and Jade are so in love. After dinner with the family, David starts to leave, but Jade invites him back into the house after everyone is asleep. He finds her waiting in front of a lit fireplace, obviously because of their burning love for each other. Question though? Why on earth is there a fire blazing in mid-June? This is Georgia, not Seattle. Props to David for suggesting that they hold off on sex, but there's really no use trying in a movie like this.
I don't want to wait. I want to feel this with you.
Yeah, what was it Maserati guy said earlier?
Well, it's going to take a lot more than stealing my car to get her to spread her legs.
Correction, that's pretty much all it took. And this is the #1 area where the movie fails as a romance. I don't always expect a romantic drama to have the most original story, and I am sometimes okay with the lead characters falling in love over a short period of time. Heck, I like a few of the Nicholas Sparks movies. What it has to do is make the characters compelling, make the obstacles they face believable, and give us a sense of why they're drawn to each other. Endless Love does none of these. The two leads have no chemistry whatsoever. They rarely ever share more than a few sentences. The only evident things that seem to drive their relationship are rebellion and wish fulfillment. I can't root for them based on just that. Anyway, so in the morning when they wake up, David learns that Jade's deceased brother was apparently Ashton Kutcher.
Some families never heal, and you're doing so well.
It's okay if none of that is true.
But it is.
I know, I'm just saying it's okay if it's not.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.